AskReddit by Palmer Priscitto. Would you feel safer in a gun-free state? Why or why not? I am from Brazil. Technically speaking, it's a gun-free country. It's very hard to get a gun here. Of course, I am only considering it legally. Even with a gun or permission, you really can't leave your house with it. It's completely illegal unless a judge or court allows you. Yet literally every 15-year-old thug in the street has a Magnum or something. I feel terrible, unsafe, and to be honest hate the violence from here. Everyone I know was robbed at least once in their lives, and I would feel a lot safer having a gun at my house, since the state is completely unable to remove the guns from the criminals, or at least arrest some of them and not release 1 month after. The state can't remove guns from criminals if the state is the criminal. I live in Taiwan. It has exceedingly strict gun laws. It's also one of the safest countries in the world in terms of risk of violent crime. I feel very safe even walking alone at night through dark alleys in the city. I've only heard good things about Taiwan. Based on a friend of mine who recently left there to work in Europe, it's full of fast trains, Shiba Inus, and 24-hour convenience stores where you can file your taxes. Sounds marvelous. Here in Ireland, our regular police, Gardaí, don't even carry guns. There are armed units. Guns exist. Hunting is a sport and farmers might have them for rabbits, etc. I feel extremely safe. I don't ever even think about gun violence here. We have 7 guns per 100 people, which is literally nothing considering the population is like 5.033 million. I've lived here all 22 years of my life and have yet to see an armed guard or someone owning a gun. I live in Iceland. I'm more likely to win the lottery than run into someone with a gun. I feel very safe, but not because there is no guns, mainly because I'm in Iceland. Iceland are here as well. About 36.5k people are registered gun owners, and there are estimated to be 87k guns circulating in the country, so roughly 2 per gun owner. That means that at least 10% of the country owns at least 2 guns. So your lottery chances are slimmer than you thought. The chances of running into someone carrying are next to none though, so I'm still rooting for your lottery odds. I live in Belgium. Very few people have guns because you need a license and a good reason. And those people know how to use them safely. The only real guns I've ever even seen are those carried by cops, and once at a friend's house whose dad goes to the range. He was cleaning his weapon. This might be the most American question ever, haha. I'm English and live in Australia. Both countries have next to no gun crime, especially yours, and you have to have a license to legally own one in both. I've felt perfectly safe in both countries, and that includes living in London. When everybody is in the same boat, you aren't naturally worrying whether somebody has a gun or not. I'm from Switzerland and we have a lot of guns. They have a much different status than in the US. Most people have served in the army and know that they aren't a toy or something to show off, but a deadly weapon that needs to be treated with respect. Switzerland is very safe and I feel safe there too. I moved to Austria where guns aren't as prevalent, but still exist. I don't feel a difference. In the US it's not the existence of guns that would scare me, but the huge amount of maniacs who are ready to shoot anyone before asking questions. It's similar here in Finland. Hunting is fairly common, so there are lots of guns. But getting a gun permit is difficult and legislation for storing guns is strict. So the chance of getting shot is almost non-existent. Northern Ireland here. Despite my region's reputation, I have never seen a gun here outside of a policeman's holster, a museum, or a dedicated clay pigeon range. Luckily, gun safety isn't a concern for me. I live in Finland, where guns aren't rare, but getting shot by one is. I don't think that the guns are a problem, but rather guns in hands of maniacs. Also, the gun culture here is very much based around tactical shooting sports for reservists as well as hunting, and not associated with street culture. Most men get to play with all kinds of guns in the military to the point of boredom. so the novelty or any kind of cool factor wears out. Yeah, most of the time in the military I felt like, man, I wish I didn't have to carry this heavy rifle around rather than, oh, this AK-62 is so cool, can't wait to go shooting. I live in Australia. We are not gun free, but we allow guns. I feel safe. Same. I moved to Aus from South Africa and it's complete polar opposites. So, I live very close to where Canada's worst mass shooting took place in 2020. My niece's kids lost their aunt and uncle, on the father's side, to the gunman. One of the victims waitressed at a restaurant we eat at. The man drove through our town during his time evading the police. And yet, I still feel extremely safe. This type of thing is so rare here, it barely crosses my mind to need a weapon. I wouldn't say he was evading police, rather, he was killing his way south and the cops just didn't do anything. I live in Canada, never seen a gun outside of military or police. I have also never really felt unsafe as a default. I too live in Canada but do see and handle firearms more regularly than most because many of my friends are active hunters. But we all have appropriate education licensing and the guns are never outside of their lockers unless they are being taken to a gun range or for a hunting trip. But I also don't feel unsafe in Canada because of gun ownership. I moved to Germany from the US and I don't just feel safer. I am safer in literally every sense. The chances of me or my family being the victims of violent crime are much lower. Fun fact, the city of Baltimore, population 600k, has more gun murders per year than the entire nation of Germany, population 84 million. Depends where, but most likely not. I live in Czechia. People can own guns. Lots of people own guns. Yet we are in top 10 safest countries in the world. It's the people who are the problem, not weapons. And you make good ones. Source, just bought a CZ457. I live in a gun-free country. Crime does exist, but a shovel is usually slower than a gun. I'm in Canada. I don't feel unsafe from guns. I feel unsafe from not having a proper system in place and allowing the mentally ill and drug addicts roam the street hours after they've been arrested and released. Violent stranger crimes are on the rise. Back to guns. I don't put myself in situations where I'll piss off a bad guy with guns. Law-abiding citizens keep their guns at home locked up, and I don't interact with gang members. Vancouver. Everyone here loves harm reduction policies, but the truth is the unpredictability of people using high-intensity drugs openly on the streets makes me feel super unsafe. Yeah, people don't have guns, but I could get stabbed or attacked. If you live in a high violent crime area, you probably want a gun to defend yourself. If you don't, you probably don't get that. If guns magically disappeared from all of inner city Baltimore, I still wouldn't feel safe walking around. The gangs and homeless scare me much more than the guns themselves. Deleted. I live in Canada. I'm never worried about a shooting. Doesn't cross my mind. I live in Spain. Guns exist here, I suppose, but the population doesn't have them. I absolutely feel safer from gun violence. I also feel pretty great about healthcare. I've had thoughts in the past of returning to the US, but it just seems nuts there now. Angry, volatile, violent, and uncaring. No thank you. I live in Denmark, and besides hunting rifles I have never seen a gun. I have never thought about gun violence in my entire life, until the US and the internet started spoon feeding me daily doses of it. So, yeah, I feel pretty safe in a gun-free state. Mostly gun-free Asian country here. Unless you're involved in criminal activity or the police, the chances of you getting shot are close to none. I really don't get school mass shootings. Seems like a waste of bullets to me. I live in the UK, in a very openly liberal city which is completely gun-free. I never ever feel unsafe at any point other than when I'm walking home at night. But I'm not scared of being shot or stabbed at all. There's never that fear here. I'm from Aurora, Colorado. Between Columbine, the theater shooting, and just every other shooting we'd hear about every day, I always had fear in the back of my mind, especially being a woman. I live in Australia now, and feel so much safer. Never have had a moment of feeling actual fear while living here, though there was one night in the train when a man was clearly having a mental break, but he had no weapons, was just telling and kicking the train, and people were trying to help calm him down. People here always ask me if I'll go back. I don't plan to. No, because I live in Maryland, 8 minutes away from Baltimore, which has some of the toughest gun laws in the country, yet we also have one of the highest gun crime rates in said country. Don't think it would make much difference in this state. Edit, because everyone keeps telling me that state guns laws don't matter because I can just drive to another state and buy a gun. I'm going to add to my post. You can only do that with long guns and regulated firearms. You can't drive to another state, have a Maryland ID and buy a regulated firearm in another state that is illegal in Maryland. If a specific type of AR was illegal in Maryland and I was a Maryland resident, if I drove to PA and tried to buy said illegal in Maryland AR, as soon as the PA gun dealer saw my Maryland ID they would turn me away and not sell me said firearm. If Maryland were to ban all guns, the same would stand. No gun dealer outside of Maryland would sell me any guns that are illegal in Maryland as long as I was a Maryland resident with a Maryland ID. It's almost like we should try to work on what's causing so many people to be violent. I'm in the UK and feel pretty safe, except for occasions when the terror alert goes up, then you see police with guns in railway stations and that makes me feel unsafe. I live in a border state and at least once a month there's some drug runner getting caught with cartel connections having, selling, sometimes both, illegal firearms. It really won't do much except take away a form of citizens protecting themselves from thug-ass punks ruining lives. Screw the cartels and screw the people who knowingly push fentanyl. Well, I live in a gun-free country and it definitely makes me feel safe.